we can make it part of the notes of this meeting, but it should be at the very top bar when you first enter the Accessoride webpage. I do know that it was down briefly last week, but we haven't had any complaints from the people that are using their computer and accessing it through the portal on their computer versus using it on their phone.
I did have the Ready Now button come up once, and that was when the driver was staging, waiting to pick me up. But that is the only time that the Ready Now button appears. It's not there all the time.
Right, and the way it's designed to work, and I'll get a little bit into that in a minute, but the disclaimer that you probably all have heard until you're tired of it, myself included, is our software is pretty limited right now. So the Ready Now feature, as you said, Kristen, will only pop up if there's an opportunity for you to engage it in advance of when you would normally have your window, and you would not see it otherwise. But the idea is as we go into new software that is more functional, more importantly, does a better job at being efficient, there will be more opportunities for people to use that button. We don't know yet because obviously we don't have the RFP out there on the street just yet, what that would look like in terms of another provider. But all the providers that Michael and I had seen over the last, 2 years, all indicated that they could do something like this.
Cool. Now, does it require cooperation with the driver to say, yeah, I'm staging and I don't need a break, so I too am ready now? Or is it just consumer based where just the person being picked up is going to say I'm ready?
It would be consumer based, but the driver, part of the functionality of the tool would not allow the button to pop up if, like you said, the driver had just started a break. So it's going to go through its algorithm and check and say, is there the opportunity? That is, as Kristen said, is the driver nearby and staging and able to take you early if you want to be taken early, and is the driver available? And at that point, it's wholly customer based. So the customer would engage the Ready Now button if all those parameters were met.
Nice.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any more questions on that one? If not, I'll just move to the next item here. Paul, to check why is there a 2-hour limitation for reservation?
Right, and I'll be a little bit more specific because as I recall from the discussion, and it's come up before, is why when using the app and booking a trip using the app, is there a 2-hour limitation for reservations? And I hate to say it again, but I will, because our current software won't allow for what they deem a complex trip to be booked using the app.
I'm sorry, Paul, for interrupting. I found just by playing with it that if you make your pickup trip at 1 hour and 20 minutes, it will allow you to do that. If you would like to go back to the straight 1 hour, you will need to call reservations. This is by me putting in an hour and being denied, and putting in an hour and 5 minutes and being denied, and putting in an hour and 10 minutes and being denied. And I finally got one to allow the reservation for the pickup at 1 hour and 20 minutes, which didn't work for me, so I did call reservations.
Right. And again, unfortunately, it's not something that the app can do and interact with Route Match and guarantee that we won't jam you or another customer up. So we've built that limitation in by design. I wasn't even aware that we were able to dial it back to 1 hour and 20 minutes yet. I know originally when they did put it out there, the limitation was 2 hours.
So it sounds like somebody's working on it to bring it back 40 minutes.
Brandon continues. I had put another question out to him about this today, and I hadn't heard back. But Brandon continues to work with what we have right now to try to make it do as good a job as possible.
Thank you.
All right. We're good on that one as well.
Yes.
The next one, this was a follow-up that Nicole followed up on, which was the civil rights and communications to start providing dates, agenda, meeting, past minutes, and meeting links on the RTD ADA advisory page for the APAC and the APCD meetings. This looks like it's been completed, and there's a link embedded in this document that I believe would reflect that. Nicole, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I do know that civil rights and legal are discussing keeping a link for previous meeting minutes and what the requirements are for that and the availability of having them out there. It would be, similar to the board page, how we have all of those minutes out there. So you can find from when we do our reports for the APs, for all of the disability reports, we do the monthly meeting. So all of those minutes are available through the board page, but I just think that Zami was talking to legal about how to get them out there. So,
Paul?
But I think Paul said that there was another situation with this too, so maybe he wants to address that part.
Well, that was following up on a comment that Douglas had made either yesterday or the day before, and whether or not this was fully resolved because we didn't have a link to the meeting, a live link to the meeting like what we just used today to log on to Teams. And my understanding is that the board is in charge of putting those links out there, and you usually won't see them until you're about 2 weeks out from the meeting date.
Yeah, you're right. We don't put those links until, because the calendar is only 2 weeks out. But right now, on the ADA page, on the web page, you can go to the agenda, and there is a meeting link already there for the, there's a combined meeting coming up, and that link is right there directly on the ADA page right now, and they're going to keep doing that for the meetings. So,
right, and again, to clarify Douglas's point, that link that's out there now is for a meeting of ACPD and APAC that we already recently had, and they put that out there about 2 weeks in advance, as they said they would, and they will do it, for instance, for our next meeting, which for APAC is September the 14th. And at that point, sometime at the very beginning of September, they'll do exactly the same thing for that meeting as well. They'll post a link and the agenda.
Excellent. Michael, I'd like you to be aware, and Gabe too, as the ADA coordinator, that Zami has clearly stated in APAC meetings that the agendas and the minutes will never be public, and the meetings would never be public. And that was right from Zami live in an open meeting. This was before COVID. And so I'm a little bit concerned about the statements, and I may be reading between the lines. But what I heard someone recently say in this meeting was legal is reviewing if they even can do it. And legally can is a misnomer. They can. There's no law saying that they cannot. And I'm just really concerned, both Michael and Gabe, about this kind of attitude from the Civil Rights Division that keeps the public in the dark. So can you please clarify why legal is involved?
Douglas, what I'll do based on this comment, because I didn't know what was said relative to Zami or what legal is advising or not advising. Let us take this offline with Gabe and Zami, and I think we can, and having Paul as well, and I think we can come back and clarify any confusion or misstatements. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know what's been said or been communicated in the past, but we've got some fresh eyes on this. We'll take another look, and we'll return with some information.
Cool.
Okay?
Thank
Please
you.
do. This is something that we've been concerned about for many years.
Okay. I appreciate your comments, Douglas, and as I said, we'll take a fresh look at this, and I
Thanks.
don't want to throw anybody on the bus. I just don't know what I don't know, and I want to be respectful, but also want to answer your question.
Due diligence. I like it. Thanks.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Okay, so the next one is, I guess there's just outstanding video out there of a 45-minute bus ride or hour bus ride. Is that what this is?
We did. Most of us received those DVDs, Michael. So
Okay.
as completed.
It's all complete.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the confusion was originally we thought that we were recording it in case somebody who had not been on the ride along that wanted to see it could. We actually had a few other folks, I think, that were on the ride along, including Tina, that asked for it. We sent them out to her as well.
Okay. And just for your edification, Gabe, this was a ride along that Paul and I were involved in. We went out on a paratransit vehicle a couple months ago now. Was it been that long?
It was fun. Probably not fun for the two of you.
No, it was fun. It was great. And, you know, we were in wheelchairs, and we had masks on and the goggles so we couldn't see them. And that, yeah, so anyway, it was just to help kind of re-familiarize us with some experiences that other folks are experiencing so we could better appreciate the concerns that were being registered. And apparently this is on a DVD now. I think it's going for what? Is it out there? Is it number one on the charts or something? But anyway,
I don't know if we get it to the top 10. But
top 10. Okay. Well, we can always hope. We can always hope. Anyway, notion is that it was recorded, and it probably kind of speaks to the experience and its changes that were going on at the time. So just wanted to give you some context.
Gabe, if you could actually, if Michael and Nicole, if you could get a copy of that to Gabe, just for grins.
Yeah, that would come from our office. We've got backup copies, and I can make sure if he doesn't already have one, we'll get one over to him.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth, Kristen.
Great. The next item on here was RTD's need to have an ADA compliant complaint, number contact person should have the ADA coordinator name and number available, provide a separate department to deal with ADA complaints. And underneath, I think civil rights and the new ADA manager to investigate how complaints are being handled. Was there more to that? I guess I'm going to ask Nicole since she probably put this together.
Gabe may know this as well, but I had just heard from marketing, who is working with civil rights right now, that they're in the process of putting together what that text will look like, and they will get them over to our office as soon as they've reviewed them. After that, we'll push them out there and make sure that all of our providers get them on their vehicles.
Cool. Hey, Gabe, just so you're aware, many years ago, we were pushing for this because RTD had never had an ADA coordinator in 15 plus years. And one of the things that CCDC tried to help RTD understand was that you, Gabe, within the next 15 years will actually become a manager of a huge office, because the job of ADA coordinator for public transit is so huge. Other cities who started their ADA coordinator in 1990 actually have a huge office of people to deal with all the different facets. So that's kind of what the future looks like for you if you stay at RTD, and if as Deborah is more and more successful with Paul and Michael's help to bring RTD up to the standards of the ADA.
Well, you got one more person pushing for it now too, along with Michael and Paul.
Good.
You got 15
Gabe,
years
this
to get
is
this done.
Nicole, and I just wanted to also say that I think this is something you and your team and Paul can work out, because I know some of the issues have to do with customer care, and that they really aren't suited to answer any of the calls or complaints. And then also there was an additional request, to have a phone number or a link or something for people on the ADA page to issue a complaint that way. So, I think this is something offline that you guys can talk about and figure out how, what we need to do to accommodate, bringing them up to speed with everything. So.
Absolutely, and I can speak to the fact that we have made a couple of website changes. I know that my email, my name, and our complaint number are out there, but that is something that I will meet with Paul and folks offline about to make more progress on, because it's my third week, so I'm still getting a little acclimated.
All right.
Oh, I don't know, Gabe. It's been 3 weeks.
Why isn't it done yet, right?
Okay. I think this
That
next one
was
was
tongue in
more.
cheek. Don't think that I'm trying to aggravate you.
No, I don't think so. Hey, so the next one had to do, was this more about the speccing of the vehicles, Paul, and the tour of buses to be shown ADA issues? Is this where we bring in the different groups to give us input, Paul? I'm just trying to remember this one.
That's my understanding. Was a combination of a couple of things. One was to look at the vehicles that we have now and allow this group to provide additional input on what those specific vehicles, especially those vehicles that they have problems with, what those problems are, and what we might do when we go back to re-specifying them. And you're right, Michael, this is where what we're working on now internally comes in, and that is to develop a detailed public involvement process whereby when we do go out in the future for bus purchases, that we have a process to assure that we are engaging the entire community. And that would be not just what we put online, not what we might put in the paper, certainly not just what we would do with APAC and ACPD, but assuring that we have that information out there to advocacy groups so that we can have everyone be a part of that process.
Yes.
And I know we're meeting internally to kind of cement that a little bit more. I know we have processes, but anything can always be improved upon, and we just want to make sure that we're lockstep with fixed route and 40 foots along with paratransit vehicles and everything else. So just to let you know, it's more inside baseball, but we're meeting internally just to firm up that process, and Paul is going to help lead that with bus operations. Correct, Paul?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Super.
So just want to let you know that that's moving forward as well. There is a number 4, it talks about review committee assignments. There's been a lot of committee movement. We wanted to engage various members of this committee into other opportunities with MTM, and I think there was some eligibility criteria committee. I believe all that has taken place, but I'll let Douglas and others to speak to that, but everybody should have gotten where they need to go in terms of those committee assignments. I know September there's going to be more work that MTM starts, and I know that there were provisions to make sure that people are going to be involved in that process. But I'll just throw that out there. Have the assignments been made, and is everybody in position, or are we still lingering in any areas right now?
I did apply for ACPD at the request of Jamie Lewis, and I have not heard back. In no way am I going to take over the chair of that group, but I would like to be a part of it if it is possible. I know that there were I think he said something crazy like there were 5 openings on the ACPD, and there's not enough communication with the folks that need to be on that committee to know that there are openings and how to apply. This is the sort of thing that needs to go out to the disability groups. I know that CCDC, of course, is involved because Jamie's their transit advocate, but Laird Hall and Atlantis and some of the other larger disability groups in town need to know that there are openings on these committees with RTD.
Christian, what's the best way to communicate that? How do we do that effectively?
Well, right. I mean, that is the $10,000 question, is it not? I would think almost sending a blast email to all of these groups and also say, please pass this on to anyone you think that might be interested. I mean, that's one of the ways that.
Okay. I mean, it could be a myriad of different ways. I was just thinking, maybe Paul, you want to speak to that as well?
I don't want to speak on behalf of ACPD because I'm not a direct part of that. I do attend a lot of their meetings. I can tell you, and I think that might be the direction they're going, so I'm not going to try to put words in their mouth. And Gabe, you may want to engage the staff for that so that you can help me report back on the ACPD side. I can tell you that when I first came on board, we were having the same problem with having a lot of vacancies. At one point, I think we had 5 or 6 vacancies in the middle of the term. And what we did was exactly that. We reached out to Shalom, Laird, Goodwill, in our case, also to some of the major hospitals to see if we could get PTs, OTs, any number of people that would be well served to know about and be a part of the APAC committee. And as a result of that, not only did we have a lot of feedback, a lot of applications, but we're in a position now where we've only actually had one person drop off the APAC committee during their term in the last year, and that was the Laird representative because she got laid off and moved to Colorado Springs. So we are going ourselves to be looking to fill vacancies for just 3 positions this fall. And I know that Tina McDonald was one of the ones that applied for the APAC side. And I, from my notes, see that that application has already been accepted. So I would expect that she would be on as a representative for APAC. So we'll have 2 more positions that will be coming up this summer for our first meeting for new members in September.
One of the things I can send you, Gabe, is a list of my contacts of the people that I have relationships with in the disability community. Somehow, and Douglas knows this, somehow magically over the last 4 years, I know people. I know how this works. Sometimes they will come into a meeting and people will know me and I don't know them, which makes me extremely nervous. Because it's, do you know me from a good way or a bad way? But I will send a list to you of the contacts that I know with the emails if I have them.
Please and thank you. That would be helpful. Then we can make sure that we catch as many people as possible in this email blast, or whichever manner we decide.
We have a rather robust list ourselves that we use to engage when we're looking for applicants. And similar to what you're saying, we'll announce it at the meeting. Please tell your friends and other members of the community that wish to serve on the committee. But we also directly engage based on that contact list. So we can provide that to you as well.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. There was some focus also on eligibility and MTM involving folks into that process. And Douglas, you were also recently starting some committees in July, weren't you? I just want to make sure all that got handled.
I'm gonna do, what's it called? Eligibility. Oh, somebody help me.
Douglas is already set to be on the appeals committee.
Yeah, the appeals committee, and then there's a one-day thing where I'm gonna be a guinea pig for MTM. Kristen, did you sign up for that too?
Guinea pig for what now? What are you a guinea pig for? What?
They're gonna do eligibility, so they're gonna come pick me up on Accessoride, and I'm gonna go to MTM, and they're gonna take me through the assessment protocol, and it's for practice.
Well, it's not only practice for them, but it's going to be the two of us watching them
Right.
and giving feedback on how the assessments are going.
Yes.
Now, I know someone who has, I have no idea how this works, her doctorate in physical therapy, that I have found the MTM application on Indeed, and I am going to give that to her to see if she might be interested in, she's a quad. That's the interesting thing. MTM does not have anyone with a disability on their current staff, just like Easter Seals did not. So I think that this is a really good opportunity, and I really hope that Elizabeth would be interested in something like this, to be part of the whole assessment process.
Nice.
Yeah. But this is all in movement right now, and they take over, the MTM takes over in September, is that correct, Paul?
Right, MTM, and we were talking about that actually before you had joined us. MTM is set to start up their facility completely on September the 1st. But in advance of that, we can use the term guinea pig, but we're looking to have members of the community to not only help with the new staff go through training, but to essentially QC the process, provide input, be the extra set of eyes and ears to tell us what they see that's good and bad about what that process is.
That's great. That's great.
Crash test dummy.
Crash test dummy.
I'm not sure that's better.
Those words aren't coming out of my mouth.
I take responsibility. I take full responsibility.
All right. Okay. Any other questions on 4 is more about the committee assignments and making sure that we've got the folks participating and getting input, and sounds like that's well on the way. Is there any other questions about that or where we're at? Anybody? No? Okay. This next one is talking about re-examining the parameters for paratransit eligibility. Paul, do you want to speak to this and kind of where we're at with it?
Well, I think a lot of that is going to come out of. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think a lot of that is going to come out of the feedback that we receive when folks go through the new assessment process with MTM. But I know that some of the specific things that were cited in some of the past meetings that we've had as a group were on assuring, and that's what the first bullet is, that we make sure that decisions are made on the most limiting condition. And I can give you a for instance, and we talked about it somewhat at length at the last meeting, was, for instance, if somebody is conditionally eligible, and in most cases, that would be a good example would be somebody who uses the wheelchair as a mobility aid, that if they have architectural barriers, they would obviously get that. But more importantly, when booking a trip, and that goes to the second bullet, is when we're considering their travel for a trip, that is going to always be based on whatever that cited disability is throughout our entire system. And the example that I would give there is when it comes to architectural barriers, which is what we talked about. If somebody has an architectural barrier, for instance, they're always going to get the trip unless, and we do not have somebody on staff that does this, unless we had a pathway assessment coordinator or staff member that assess a specific trip. And because we don't, and that's not something we do at RTD, a person that cited architectural barriers is always going to get that trip. When they went through the assessment, it was deemed that architectural barriers would be something that they would need. And architectural barriers, and I think we talked about that also a little bit at length. We need to do a better job when we reprint our customer guide at making clear to our customers what that means, because it's not exactly nomenclature, but it's not necessarily something that everybody would understand. When I say architectural barrier, what does that mean? Well, it means a number of things: steep slope, broken sidewalk, no curb cuts, snow. It means a whole host of things that could add up to architectural barriers.
Okay. Is there anything more here? I know that we're going to have folks involved in the process, and that's underway. But we did note it for the meeting, and it was kind of a discussion point from the last time. Anything else that you want to add to that, Paul? We're good?
No, I would ask the group if they could explain further, because I wasn't quite sure on that third bullet what we were looking for here, or what question we were trying to answer when it says RTD will find people don't want to use paratransit.
Okay, so Gabe, just to bring you up to speed on your third week here, the disability community has been reeling for about 5-6 years from RTD's decision that a person who is paralyzed or quadriplegic is disqualified from unconditional paratransit if they happen to own a motor and some batteries, called a power chair. And this is something that we've been trying to work with and have basically met a big no answer from RTD to date. And I believe, according to the ADA, it's about the person and the person's limitations. I cannot, for the life of me, get up out of my chair and walk down the street. And according to the ADA, that's what needs to be qualified for my eligibility. And I'm glad of Paul's discussion about the architectural barriers, because those are important. But also important, and I would say more important than that, is if I cannot walk independently, and that's what the ADA says, if the person cannot independently get to the bus stop, then they get unconditional use of paratransit. And yet RTD for 5 or 6 years has been in a mode of not only denying people access to unconditional because they own a power chair, but promising that they were going to look through the registers to find people who gained a power chair or who did not disclose their power chair. So this is a lot of speech, and I apologize for all the words, but it's quite serious.
I appreciate the catch up.
So the other argument that we would get every time we brought this up, or most, I can't say, every time. The big argument we would get is, if RTD allowed more people to use paratransit, the system would become overloaded, which is not true. People don't want to use paratransit. It is limiting. It is difficult. You are confined to many rules. It is very expensive. It is much less expensive to use the fixed route. It's much more flexible. People would rather not have to go through, and it is a hassle, the hassle of using Accessoride. That's what that is the third bullet point, is something that I asked Nicole to add. Because
that's been RTD's answer, is that, it'll just be overrun. No, the law ignores that question. And Kristen is right. We don't want to take paratransit. We need to take paratransit when we need to take paratransit.
So, Paul, did that help address that question?
Yeah, and I think this is probably going to be an active and continuing conversation with Gabe involved.
Okay.
I'm watching Gabe scribbling throughout all of our conversations.
I'm a fastidious note taker, so when you see me look down, I am writing.
Yes.
I've written a lot.
Is there anything else we want to talk about on item number 5?
No.
Okay. We noted that there were other focuses, particularly in community request action items, and then this talks about allow reservations to be made up to 2 weeks in advance. The prior day reminder calls, and the portal shows reservation details. Cancellations won't necessarily increase.
We would love as a
any comment on that?
community to be able to plan our lives. And we are fully aware that the ADA says that RTD can restrict it to the day before for reservation requests. But the ADA also says up to 2 weeks. And as people with disabilities, we know that if we were going to do fixed route, we can plan 2 weeks ahead because the schedules are available. But with Accessoride, we're limited to less than a week to 5 days. And it used to be 3 days, and it was brought up to 5. And we would sure love to have a minimum of 1 week, and we would sure love to have 2 weeks, especially when it's involved with caregivers who help with scheduling, because they can schedule far out instead of this limiting our lives to just 5 days out. And that would be a point of generosity as far as RTD is concerned. And Kristen's points that, hey, look, there's a call the night before, there's an app on the phone, there's an app on the computer. Life is very different now. RTD used to say that people who ride Accessoride aren't too bright, and so they just have no idea what their schedules are. And there were so many cancellations last minute. And that's what it feels like from our end, that we're just not too bright. And I apologize for attributing that, but that's what it feels like to us, that we cannot manage our schedules.
Okay. I know that we're going out for new software. I don't know if that will address it, but is this something that you would want to speak to on, Paul, or does our opportunities that we're seeking right now?
For feedback from Brandon, and he actually did provide me some immediate feedback indicating they are still working hard on trying to use the current software on a previous point we talked about to go back to an hour. However, on this point, I'm not hearing anything that's directly as a result of cancellation, at least at this point. I know that was an issue in the past, but I do know that we would have to go through testing to extend beyond the 5 days for 1 week. And 1 week was actually the next goal we were shooting for. And certainly we've already put in the specifications that we would like to see a system that would allow people to book all the way out to 2 weeks as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul.
And that RFP is going to go out in another month or so, Paul?
Should be sooner than that. I was hoping it was going out this week, and then I heard yesterday we'll be following up today with IT at the afternoon meeting. That they're finalizing a last review with legal and procurement. His belief is it will probably go out at the very end of this month.
Good.
Okay, we're getting close. I think next week is the end of the month.
We're not at the finish line, but you can see it from here.
Okay. Just want to make sure we got that right. But giving difference to Paul, we have been working on new ways in which to deliver service. This at-risk proposal that we're pulling out is to help us with efficiencies, effectiveness, service, more real-time type of opportunities. And we're hoping some good things because we didn't want to continue down the road that we've been under for the last 10 years with Route Match. So long story short, we are thinking outside the box, and we're trying to bring in folks that can help us think about how we can deliver services more efficiently and more in real time and meeting those new needs that I shouldn't say new needs, but just the needs that anybody would have, right? And just making that happen. So
Cool.
so stay tuned.
I think that Uber purchasing Route Match might be the best thing ever for RTD, because our Route Match has been the bane of pretty much everyone's existence. Things never seem to work the way that anybody wanted them to with Route Match, and Uber purchasing it is the greatest excuse ever to replace it.
Cool.
I couldn't agree more. I think you've got a lot of head nods there. The next one, obviously, Kristen, you wanted to be part of a group that meets with the MTM. I think that can be done. Is that like snap of the finger? We got that resolved?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure if MTM wants anyone involved, any user involved in that. But I'm not a legal.
I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think we can make that happen, right, Paul?
Yeah, and I can join with you, Kristen, if you want that.
We could
I
put
think this one
together our own consulting company.
Yeah. Okay. But I think we can make that one happen. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Correct the Accessori portal to show real-time information instead of only the scheduled information. Comment on that, Paul? Do you know anything?
Yeah, the portal, that's the one that we were talking about earlier, does show real time. And if you ever see that that's not the case, we certainly want to know. The issue has been and continues to be that if you're using the call-in IVR function, it doesn't and it never has shown real-time information. It's scheduled time. And it's not much of an aid. At best, it reminds people when they call in when their trip was scheduled to take place. But it's not going to do like Uber or your Amazon package. It's not going to tell you within 5 or 10 minutes, because if that driver had a delay in boarding another passenger prior to picking you up, you may have originally been planning on being picked up at 11 and it may have slipped to 11:15. It may not be a late trip if you now do not have real-time information. And that is still the case with the IVR. And that is something, while we're working on the other areas we were talking about to try to work with Uber from Route Match to fix some things, it's not something we can see the version 6 that we have of Route Match being able to do internally. Because what we did to fix the portal and make the portal work in real time is we did it ourselves.
And it does work pretty well.
Is the solution. Is if you go through the portal, you will get real-time information. That is, it really is the solution. The IVR is a very old technology, and you're right. It's not capable of giving you real-time.
And certainly, if a new software provider can make the IVR work the same way we want them to, because while the portal is new technology and provides good information, we also know from our last customer satisfaction survey that although it's a lot more than it used to be, barely 25% of our customers regularly use a cell phone, regularly use an app for transportation purposes. So we always, in the foreseeable future, want to have an option that's lower tech. So that would be the goal, is to have the new software provide a solution for people using old technology as well.
Nice.
Yeah, that's definitely a moment.
Okay. There's a notation about the fare change study that's going on to ensure a reduction of the paratransit fare to half the fixed route. fair. It talks about the disabled community. People are on fixed income, so there's some consideration that needs to be made. I believe the fair study is about an 18-month process, and I believe it began a couple months ago. So that's a notation that we can definitely pass on to those who are leading that effort, and I'm sure we'll be involved in some respect on that. Does that help satisfy that concern?
Yes.
Given the statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Michael
All right.
and
That
Paul.
kind of concludes the agenda that I have in front of me right now. As I mentioned at the beginning, there was another page kind of just speaking to old business, new business items. I'll maybe let Paul take over that particular area. And then there's a whole another area that we just wanted a chronology of all the work that's been done and completed since the time that we started meeting as a group, and that's a whole another separate couple pages. But again, we did go through the agenda that was for this meeting, and I didn't know, Paul, did you want to speak to anything on old or new business?
I don't think so, unless there's specific comments that the group has. I know we had the one comment that came in that was specific to making sure from Douglas that we had addressed the issue as it relates to posting information about upcoming meetings and how we were posting it and so on. But I don't know of any other specific issues that we would want to pull out and address unless there's something that somebody wants to speak to.
I would like to give my concerns on the ACPD, not the ACPD, sorry, with the Julie and Jamie group that meets with Deborah, and the Douglas and me group meeting with the three of you, combining. I do not like that idea at all for multiple reasons. The big one is the fixed route service is Julie and Jamie's forte, and paratransit is the expertise of myself and Douglas. Combining the two will do nothing but really muddy the waters. It will also increase the time that the meeting frame, the meeting time. So, in combining the two groups would limit the time each one has to give their concerns. I believe that when they were originally created, they were separate. I believe they need to remain separate, just because it really is only, and I hate to use the word fair, it's only fair to each group to have their own time frame of bringing up their own concerns. There is no way that within 60 minutes, each group is going to be able to bring up what they need to bring up with RTD leadership. Now, this was the first meeting we have ever had that we did in 60 minutes, which is amazing and it rocks. We have talked about everything we want to talk about. If you include what Julie and Jamie want to talk about, we could be going on for another half hour, 45 minutes. So please, I don't like that idea. Can we please revisit keeping the two groups separate?
I echo everything Kristen has said with an exclamation point.
So, Chris, just for my edification, does Deborah have an expectation that you were going to be part of another group, or you were going to stay here, or just want to make sure I was clear?
I'm trying to recall where I saw that. I think it was an email.
From Nicole, I thought.
I hate to look for emails. I don't think it was from Deborah. I'm going to have to go looking for it.
I thought it was an email from Nicole saying that we're just going to combine these two groups.
Oh, that's right. It was from Nicole. I really do not like that idea one bit.
Okay. Just so I'm clear, because I'm trying to follow up, I know that Julie and others have been meeting with Deborah, and they're kind of get in, get out, pretty efficient process according to what I heard from Deborah. So
Yeah.
you'd like to continue that process, continue this meeting with obviously the focus that we have right now, and introducing Gabe will be much more part of this as well. And just so we can concentrate on the issues at hand and not overlap, or at least allow enough time to have substantive discussions about issues that we bring up.
Where the main focus is paratransit.
Versus
Okay.
let's keep two concerns separate, please.
Okay. All right. I appreciate your comments on that, and I think we could probably work something out. I know that Gabe and Paul will definitely be working with you very intently on these things. And I just want to make sure, because when I first heard it, it sounded like we were looking at one and then changing and all that. I just think maybe, Kristen, it might be just good to also let Deborah know your thoughts on that as well, if you haven't already. Or have you?
I will send her some communication today, probably right after this.
Okay. Looks like we've covered everything that I'm seeing right now, in an efficient, timely, and stupendous manner. Anyway, with that, I appreciate Gabe being on the call. We have these leave every month, is it? Or every 2 weeks? I can't remember now. Every 2 weeks or every month?
Every month.
Every month?
I think the two stand to talk to us more than once a month.
Okay. And everybody's set on their committees, right? I don't want to make sure that nobody's being left off or didn't get on, got all the barriers removed, right?
I believe so. What do you think, Douglas?
Yes. Well done, and thank you.
All right. Well, with that, does anybody else, Gabe, did you have any comments, or Paul, or just go around the room here?
We can go around
the
table.
Table,
I would go around the table, go around the video call. I don't know what you want to call it. The square.
Yeah. The square.
I'm center square, though. I'm center square, though. Yeah, that's me. Thank you guys for taking the time. Thank you for involving me in this committee. I'm looking forward to working more closely together and to help assuage some of these issues, to help find that middle ground.
Cool.
Because we're the people that move people, and so we want to move all people.
All right. Well said, Gabe.
Please reach out, Gabe, if you have any questions or need to have things clarified. I will send, since your email is easy with rtd.com, I will send you an email so that you have mine.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the work we're going to do.
I don't have anything else to add at this time, but I will caution Gabe that if we're playing Hollywood Squares, Paul Lynn was always center square. I'm pretty sure I'm center square.
I will retract.
Oh my God.
So I thought it was Wally Cox. So I guess I got that wrong.
Well, that was a different era.
All right.
I can't believe.
Paul, did you have anything more?
I just know what you mean.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Kristen, anything?
No,
Did you have anything more?
Thank you.
And Douglas, anything? You good?
Yes.
All right, Nicole, anything?
I'm good. Sorry.
Okay.
Takes me forever to find that button.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
We're all great.
Thank you all.
Wonderful day.
All right.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.